Welcome in on this Tuesday. I'm Elizabeth Cook. At this hour, President Donald Trump is meeting behind closed doors with newly elected Prime Minister Mark Carney. On the agenda today, tariffs in a growing trade war. They held a bilateral meeting just moments ago with several notable exchanges. Let's take a listen to that.
Advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, as a real estate developer, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said that's the way it was meant to be. But I do feel it's much better for Canada, but we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it. I think that there are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes, free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway because we're protecting Canada if you ever had a problem. But I think it would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. And we have done that in the past. And part of that, as the President just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership, and I'll say this as well, that the President has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
And they have.
Okay, let's bring in CBS News senior White House correspondent Ed O'Keefe, who is live outside the White House for us. Ed, President Trump still bringing up making Canada a 51st state. What did you make of that exchange there?
Oh, Elizabeth, not only the language, but the body language said it all there. The President bringing it up again under questioning from reporters in the Oval Office, and you can see the Canadian Prime Minister there pining to get in with his trying to lean in and say, hold on a second, and let me make my point, which is that Canadians have made very clear over the last several months they want nothing to do with the talk of annexation. We'll see if it comes up in their private lunch, which is now believed to be underway here at the White House, and whether the Prime Minister says anything more about it later today when he addresses reporters here in Washington. The main thrust of this meeting is supposed to be about the future U.S.-Canada trade relationship. You heard the President repeatedly suggest there that the United States doesn't need Canada. Well, he should talk to the auto industry, the construction industry, the agriculture industry, the food industry in this country, because they certainly do rely on Canada, at least for now, and it would be very difficult to quickly replicate what it is the United States draws from Canada in this country. Oh, by the way, the oil industry and the energy industry more broadly, given the oil that's extracted from Alberta and the electricity that comes from Ontario, Quebec, and other parts of Canada. So the Prime Minister doing his best there to stay level-headed and perhaps not engage in a tit-for-tat there in front of the cameras. We'll wait and hear whether or not they continued that conversation behind closed doors after.
Yeah, there seemed to be a definite effort to keep everything civil with that conversation in front of reporters. And meantime, in that Q&A session, there were a wide range of topics that were addressed. What else stood out to you, Ed?
Well, just this general idea that actually one other thing the President suggested there regarding how the United States is the best supplier or producer of military equipment in the world. That is one of the things the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has suggested they may go shopping for in other parts of the world, whether it's Europe or Asia, because they're supposed to be ordering some aircraft, some other equipment to help deal with security along the Arctic Circle and that region, which of course has become a bigger concern in recent years as Russia and China especially have been sending ships through that passage. So that was interesting that the President suggested there, or at least tried to remind Carney that they may be the only customer for that. We'll see if Carney sticks to that. And then just more broadly, there was a lot of anticipation that this could go sideways real fast, or that it would be somewhat civil. And of course, the longer the President sits in a situation like that these days, it seems the longer he gets agitated, or the more likely he gets agitated. And he seemed to there towards the end, poking Carney again about the the relationship, and that it seemed like the United States is propping up Canada, and we don't necessarily need to do that. Again, if you look at the reality on the ground, the economic relationship between these two countries is so intertwined, it would take quite some time, and it may not even be possible, really, to completely undo the United States' relationship with Canada, given the reliance and given how many companies operate on both sides of the border for various reasons.
Yeah, but the president also brought up separately from the conversation of the relationship with Canada, Ed, about California, specifically the high-speed rail. And this comes, just this week alone, he's talked about making Alcatraz a prison again. He's imposing a 100% tariff on Hollywood movies made outside of the U.S. Is he just going after Gavin Newsom? Is this what this is about?
It sure seems like it, Liz. They've been frenemies off and on for years, and it does seem like he's trying to goad him for some reason into some broader conflict yet again. We now know there's been some reporting about the Alcatraz thing, that in fact there was the PBS station in West Palm Beach over the weekend was airing the movie Escape from Alcatraz at least twice, on Saturday and Sunday. And there's a belief now that the president may have actually seen the movie, and that may have sparked his interest in Alcatraz yet again. There's that. We know now that the movie tariff situation was raised by Jon Voight, the actor who's one of the three he's asked to sort of serve as envoys to Hollywood, Sylvester Stallone and Mel Gibson being the others. Voight was in Florida over the weekend, met with the president, and raised this issue that very quickly became presidential policy, and of course has roiled the entertainment industry there in California as they try to sort out what exactly this could mean for their bottom line and for their operations and production of not only movies but potentially television shows across the world. And then the issue with the high-speed rail, which has been an obsession of his since his first administration, for whatever reason bringing it up in a conversation with the Canadian Prime Minister. Probably a lot of Canadian viewers and people who were monitoring this meeting up there scratching their heads wondering, why on earth would he bring that up? But he did, as he sometimes does. And as you said, it does seem as if he may be trying to goad the governor into some kind of a confrontation yet again.
CBS News senior White House correspondent Ed O'Keefe at the White House, thank you so much for keeping notes for us on that bilat. Always great to talk to you.